We tell the billionaire class they cannot have it all. For a start, they're going to start paying their fair share of taxes.
Yeah, rich people ought to pay their fair share. Warren Buffett says he pays a lower percentage of tax than his secretary. That's disgusting. Right, Steve Moore? Steve
John,
Moore
well,
is...
that's one of these prevalent
Let me
myths.
introduce you. He's an economist who studies this stuff.
And it's just this prevalent myth. It's been around there for 10 years now. Warren Buffett keeps saying it, that he pays less than his secretary. But what
It is a higher percentage. It's actually true.
Well, no, it isn't really, because he's not. What does Warren Buffett do? He owns companies. He invests in these companies, and those companies pay a whole heck of a lot of tax. And if you take into account all of those taxes, Warren Buffett's tax rate is much higher.
According to Forbes, the secretary makes between $200,000 and $500,000 a year. So they're both in the top bracket.
She's pretty rich, too. Most of his money comes from capital gains and dividend income, and that's taxed both at the corporate level and at the individual level as well. So if you take that into account, he is not paying a lower tax rate than his secretary.
Moving on from the deceitful example, people say if you raise taxes on the rich, you'll have more equality.
We've got a great experiment on that, it turns out, John, because we have 50 states and they have all sorts of different tax rates. The states with really high tax rates, like California and New York, actually have more income inequality than the states that have zero income tax rates.
Why would that be?
I think it's because there's fewer opportunities. Where there aren't rich people, there aren't people who have opportunities to make money. I never can understand why we want to villainize the people who are the backbone of the American economy.
Beats me. At the Democratic debate, Bernie Sanders, who promises to raise taxes on the rich, was asked, how much?
How high would you go?
We haven't come up with an exact number yet, but it will not be as high as the number under Dwight D. Eisenhower, which was 90%. But it will be. I'm not that much of a socialist compared to Eisenhower.
Ha ha, socialist Eisenhower, but
that's
there
relief,
was,
by the way. He doesn't want to go to 90%. Hooray. That's an improvement.
But people hear that and say, yeah, well, it was 90%. We did okay.
Except, you know what? Nobody really paid the 90%.
There were a million deductions.
There were so many deductions. In fact, that's the essence of a bad tax system. That's why I want a flat tax. Get rid of all those deductions and loopholes. You know, the rich are the people who take advantage of all this stuff. And so clear out the deductions. They're going to pay their fair share. That's why we should be for the flat tax.
I asked my social media followers for economic myths that bother them. Dean, no longer in O, whatever that means, tweeted, the myth that higher tax rates mean more revenue for government. This one's counterintuitive. Yeah, higher taxes, more revenue.
And yet, it really doesn't prove out. Sometimes it does. Sometimes you can raise tax rates and get more revenue. But we've had a lot of instances in this country when that hasn't been the case. And my favorite example is in the Reagan years. When Ronald Reagan came into office, the highest income tax rate on the rich people was 70%. When President Reagan left office, the highest rate was all the way down to 28%. That's a big reduction. That's about a two-thirds reduction.
So
and
all
guess
that
what?
money won't be coming in.
And, well, you know what? The rich actually paid more taxes. Not only did they pay more taxes, about twice as much, but they also paid a higher share of the taxes. So sometimes, not always, sometimes cutting those tax rates and getting rid of loopholes actually makes the rich pay more.
Maybe because they worked harder and earned more money.
Oh yeah, they did very well.
And they stopped putting all their effort into cheating or hiding their money.
That's true, but I want to make a point. If we want to balance the budget, if we want to get more revenues into the government, you know what we're going to need? A lot more rich people. I hate to say it, but we're going to need more rich people because rich people pay the preponderance of the taxes. Just imagine we have more millionaires and billionaires and we create more rich people. That's going to be more money to the Treasury. And you know what? We can use that money to balance the budget and be in much better fiscal shape.
But you admit it's a mixed bag. The supply side argument, keep cutting, more revenue will come in.
Sometimes you get more revenue, sometimes you don't. Of course, that's true.
Here's another economic myth from the always reliable Bernie Sanders.
Major corporations year after year pay virtually zero in federal income tax.
You know, I kind of agree with him on this, believe it or not, John. Our business tax system, our corporate tax system, is so messed up right now that you have some companies like General Electric, some years they don't pay any tax.
How can that be? We have a graph of the corporate tax rates. It's 40% in the United States, less in France, Japan, Germany, much lower, half the price in United Kingdom.
That's right. We have the highest business tax rate in the world, yet it doesn't raise very much revenue. Now, wouldn't you agree with me? That's a pretty dumb tax system, a high tax rate, and nobody's paying it.
How can they not pay it?
because they take advantage of tax credits and loopholes and special interest carve-outs in the code. You know, that's why we have K Street is just flooded with lobbyists. What do you think they're lobbying for?